Hello everyone, I'm Nilima. I'm back in my YouTube channel, and so we were talking about different technique which we generally use in the laboratory, in protein biochemistry lab or any biochemical laboratory. Now, like in my previous video, I have discussed about one technique that is called Bradford assay to detect the protein concentration. In any kind of protein purification process, after purification you need to check the concentration of your protein. So for that, the Bradford assay is a technique, and which I already discussed in my previous video. If you didn't watch that video, please go through that video once. So today, in today's video, I'll talk about a broad overview of protein purification. In our laboratory, in all kinds of biochemical, protein biochemistry laboratory or structural biology laboratory, the basic thing is the purification of the protein and optimization of the purification of protein. That is very, very important, because if your protein is not pure enough, if you don't know how to purify a good quality of protein, then it's a very, very big issue of your project, because this is the basic of any kind of biochemical, protein related biochemical assay, I'll say. So today I'll talk about a broad overview of protein purification, how we go about it, step by step, how we purify it. I'll talk about that in the later videos. In later series of my videos, I will actually demonstrate step by step, like one by one, first the theory part and then the practical view of that part. So today I will talk about a broad overview, like step by step what are the steps in the in the protein purification process. I'll talk about that. So for any kind of purification process, any kind of protein purification process, we have 3 to 4 particular steps which are common in any kind of protein. If whether it is a bacterial protein, whether it is a plant protein, whether it is a insect protein or human protein, that doesn't matter. But if you want to purify it, you have to go through all these steps. So uh, I have written down 4 steps. Is one by one I'll talk about. So first step is the transformation. As you all can see, is the transformation, then the expression check, then expression optimization, and then protein purification. So if you talk about protein purification, it's it's the last step of the whole protein purification protocol, the protein purification itself. So first I'll talk about the transformation. Now, transformation is something which is the first step, and it's the most important step. Now, before transformation, there is another step which is called, called cloning. Okay, this is the first step which is called cloning. Now, what is cloning? I'll talk about first that. So now, let's say you want to purify one gene. Let's say your PI told you that okay, we will work on an insect gene. Let's say one gene, proline isomerase. What it does, it converts proline from cis to trans and trans to cis. It's called proline isomerase. Now the thing is, first you need to know the cloning process. Now what is cloning process? So let's say this is the genome of that bacteria. Okay, let's say it's an E. coli genome. Okay, now in this genome means DNA, we all know. Now in this genome, we have a gene. Let's say from 140th base pair to 200 base pair. This is the length of the gene. Okay. Okay, as I was saying, this is the gene of your interest. You want to work on this gene. Okay. Now in the cloning stage, what we will do, we will take this gene out from this whole genome. This is the whole genome. We will take it out and we will put this gene in an expression vector, because we want to express that protein, right? Now this expression vector, we have multiple types of expression vector. Now let's say I'll say some name of these. PET28A, PET15B. These are the expression vector we have in our laboratory. Now what we will do, first we will take this gene out. Now there is different method of how we can we can generate this gene. We can directly cut out from there through the like if we use restriction enzyme, if there is a restriction site there, we can directly digest the genome and take this gene out. Otherwise, through PCR also we can do that. We can design primer according to this, and then we can directly PCR amplify this portion of the gene and we can take it out. Okay, now my gene is ready, right? But if we put this gene in a bacterial cell, let's say this is a bacterial cell, if you put this gene inside this bacterial cell, will it be stable enough? No, right? Because there are different endonucleases, exonucleases are there, which will cut this gene in different fragments. So it is not stable. So what we will do? We will insert this gene in an expression vector, right? Now, for to insert this gene in an expression vector, what we will do first? So let's say this is our expression vector. What we will do? We will digest this expression vector as well. What we will do? So we digest this gene from the whole genome, right? With the same restriction enzyme, we will cut this genome, this vector as well. So how it will look? It will look like this, right? This is called digestion. We keep it for 16 hours in 16 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Celsius for 3 hours, like that. We just put this vector in a vial and we put a restriction enzyme there. First we have to check if there is a restriction enzyme cutting site here and the same kind of restriction cutting site there as well. We have to check all these parameters first. Then we will put this in a vial. And this restriction enzyme, what they will do, they will cut this gene. Now we have this vector and we have this gene, right? Now we will put together this in a vial. So how it will look? There is a vial, we have this cut vector as well as we have that gene of interest. Now what we will do? What we will do? Ligation. It is called ligation. Okay. Now in ligation, what will happen? After 16 hours, 16 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Celsius, 3 hours, we will keep it. Okay. What will happen in this vial? With this vector, our gene of interest will be inserted. So this whole step is called cloning, right? Now what we will do? After the cloning process is done, I have my expression vector including my gene of interest. So this is the gene on which we wanted to work on. Now this is called gene of interest, GOI, and this is the expression vector, right? Now what we will do? We will insert this vector in an expression strain. So there are two kinds of strain. One is cloning strain, one is expression strain. Now there is a difference. If we put this clone in a cloning strain, let's say it's a cloning strain. Okay, what it will do? It will multiply this. If you insert it, if this is a cloning strain, then it will multiply this into multiple such vector. So what we will do? We will extract these vectors from this bacterial cell. That is called cloning strain. But if we put this clone in an expression strain, what it will do? It will not multiply into multiple such vector. What it will do? It will express this protein. What gene we have inserted in that clone. Now this strain, what it will do? It will express protein from this gene. Let's say it's a proline isomerase and it will express this protein. It is like normally we call it as a overexpression. It's not like normal expression. We are inserting this clone inside that strain because we want to overexpress this protein, because we want that protein for our study, right? Now the cell needs to overexpress that protein. So that's why it is called the expression strain. So this whole process up to this, the cloning process is done. When you have clone ready, the cloning process is over. Now comes the transformation. Means you are transforming that clone into a expression strain or cloning strain, right? Now there are different processes of transformation. Some are called chemical transformation, some are called like sometimes we do electroporation through electric shock. We can insert our clone inside the bacterial cell. So there are different processes of that. I'll not talk about that step in this video. I'll make another video of the process called transformation and with a proper lab practical video. I will do that. But I just wanted to discuss this cloning process with you. If you have any confusion in this process, like cloning process, just let me know in the comment section. I will again discuss this cloning process because I wanted to make a separate video for the cloning. But for this video, I just wanted to I just wanted to discuss that how actually we insert the gene inside the clone and then how we transform in the bacteria. I just wanted to discuss that thing. So this is called the cloning and this is called the transformation, transforming the clone inside the bacterial cell. Now it like comes the second part, second step. It's called expression check. Now we have seen that how we can transform our clone into the bacterial expression strain or cloning strain. That is the normal bacterial cell only. Now we will see how we do the expression check. Like you have inserted your clone inside the bacterial cell, right? Now the second thing is whether it is at all expressing inside that bacterial cell or not. That is called expression check. We are checking the expression of that protein. Now what we generally do for the expression check, so there are different clone there are different types of cloning process where we can insert our gene under some bacterial promoter, where, so what does that mean actually? Let's say you have put in the expression strain, this is the clone what you have made already just before the expression check and transformation. So this is the clone and this is your gene of interest. Okay, this is the gene of interest. Now we insert our gene of interest in such a way so that before this there will be a RNA polymerase, their RNA polymerase can see it and then produce large amount of RNA, so that in the next step, in the translation step, from that RNA cell can produce large amount of protein. So for the expression we induce the cell. What does that mean actually? So first, what we generally do in the lab, we induce the bacterial cell so that it can produce the protein. Now, for the production of the protein, RNA polymerase should sit on that promoter region, and then it can start the RNA synthesis, and then from that RNA we will get the protein. So, cell needs to generate more amount of RNA polymerase, right? Now, what we do, in case of E. coli, we all know it's like it can use lactose as the source of energy. So what we generally do, we use IPTG. If you read about lactose, operon, you will definitely see this name IPTG. What is that? Actually, IPTG is non-degradable version of lactose, because lactose, if we give bacteria lactose directly, it will take up lactose, it will make energy, it can use as energy source, and lactose will be not there in the media. But if we provide IPTG, cell can use again and again the same IPTG molecule from the media, because it is not degradable version, right? Now what we will do, we induce this bacterial cell with IPTG. Now what IPTG will do, IPTG increase the production of RNA polymerase. Now people generally make a mistake here. People generally say IPTG is for our protein. No, IPTG is for the RNA polymerase. IPTG is not for to induce our protein production. It is for the RNA polymerase production. Now this RNA polymerase will go and sit here in the promoter region of this gene of interest. Now it will make more RNA, and from RNA we will get our protein of interest. Okay. Now here we can, now for expression of our protein, we can actually check the expression in different condition. Now those are called the growth condition. Okay. Now in the growth condition there are different. So what what are the conditions we can vary for the expression check? There are different conditions. One is IPTG concentration, that we can vary. 2 is time. 3 is temperature. 4 is media. Okay, I'll talk about one by one. Now, if we increase the IPTG concentration, you will see there is an increase in the protein production, because as I told, if you increase the IPTG concentration, it will increase the production of RNA polymerase and it will go and sit on the promoter and it will give rise to more amount of protein, right? So, if we increase the IPTG concentration, our protein production will increase, and if we decrease the IPTG concentration, the protein production will be decreased, right? But there are some problem with IPTG concentration. If we put less amount of IPTG, cell can't make that amount of protein, right? It is true. But if you put, so what people will do, if it's always true, people will put more and more IPTG and so that they can get more amount of protein, right? But it is not true every time. What normally happened in our laboratory experiment, we have seen that if you increase the IPTG concentration too much, it can lead to protein degradation. Now, if you put too much of IPTG, you are giving your bacterial cell one kind of stress, right? You are saying make more and more amount of IPTG, more and more amount of protein, but it is not true. The cell also has a limitation, because let's say we also have some limitation that how much we can study. Let's say on average on 24 hours we can study up to 10 hours or 12 hours. Okay, that is our limitation. Also, just like that, cells also have its limitation, that how much protein it can produce or how much IPTG concentration it can take up. That is, there is a limitation. So that thing we have to check, we have to optimize. So this is the expression check and expression optimize. These two steps are the same kind of steps, like they are parallel kind of steps. So you need to check in which IPTG concentration your cells are not stressed enough and they are giving rise to good amount of your protein yield. That you have to optimize. That is one thing, that is IPTG concentration. Now the time. Now what people generally do, there are different types of timing period you can grow your cells. One is we generally use, one is 37 degrees Celsius for 3 hours, or 16 degrees Celsius for 16 hours, or 16 degrees Celsius for 6 hours. We use these kind of timing and temperature I also included here. Temperature is also a point. Now what people generally do, they grow at 37 degrees Celsius and 3 hours, and it generally takes less time. So people they are done with that 3 hours and they will go for the protein purification. Now sometimes what happened, if you grow for 3 hours and in such a high temperature, your protein sometimes got degraded. It can get degraded. So I generally prefer these 16 hours and 16 degrees Celsius, because in low temperature the protein production rate is much slower, right? So protein will get fold, it can get fold and it can get higher time to get fold properly, and bacterial cell also get higher time, so that in low temperature it can produce higher amount of protein without any stress. So I generally prefer this condition, but people used this kind of condition as well, because let's say your protein is highly degradable. Okay, so in those conditions normally people use these 3 hours, because if people generally use 3 hours, use this condition 3 hours in 37 degrees and they are done with it, because if you keep your cells inside that media for a longer time, there is a high chance of degradation of the protein. So that's why they use this 3 hours condition. Now one other thing is the media, because media is one thing. Some people use LB, some people use that is Loria broth, and some people use TB. There are different kind of media. You can use any media, but you have to optimize as well in which condition your protein yield is more, your protein is not degraded, your protein is properly folded, and activity is also maintained. All these things you have to first optimize, and then you go for the protein purification step. So now we will talk about the protein purification part. Now expression check, expression optimization, cloning, all these things are done. Now we will go for the protein purification. Oh, there is a heading as already. So we will go for the protein purification. So there are different process of protein purification, different steps, different process people use according to their protein. They have choose the purification process. Now today I'll talk about one purification process where we use affinity chromatography. Okay, now chromatography is something, a different technique. I'll talk about that later as well. But now I'm giving an overview of the protein purification, so that's why it's like it's a normal. You just listen that technique and try to understand this. Later I will discuss all this technique one by one. Okay. So now people use different kind of protein purification technique. Today I'll specifically talk about one thing, that is one nickel NTA based purification, that is affinity chromatography based purification. So now your cloning is done, your transformation is done, your growth, all the growth condition you have optimized, all these things are done. You grew the culture, all things are done. You have the back. So after the growth, like after 16 hours and 16 degrees Celsius, 3 hours, all these conditions are done. Now what you will do, you centrifuge your bacterial culture, right? So what we use generally, we use 4500 RPM for 20 minutes. Now what we generally do, we grow 800 ml culture in 2 liter flask. Okay, and we pour this 800 ml culture in a jar. Okay, and we generally put for the centrifugation. Okay, now when it is centrifuge, how it looks like? It will look like this. You have pellet here. These are the bacterial cells, and you have the supernatant. What we generally do, we decant this supernatant. Now you have only the pellet. Now what we will do, we will remove this pellet, and in an falcon we stored in -20 degrees Celsius. You can store it in -80 degrees Celsius as well. If you keep for the longer time, you can store in -80. If you use that pellet in some days, then you can keep it in -20 normally. Now these things are done. Okay. So now you have the pellet, right? You have the pellet. Now you have to resuspend this pellet with some kind of buffer. Now there are different types of buffer. These also you have to optimize. In which buffer your protein is stable enough, in which salt concentration your proteins are stable enough, that you have to optimize. Let's say my buffer condition is 20 millimolar trees, pH 8, 250 millimolar NaCl, 5% glycerol. This is the buffer condition where my protein is stable enough. I optimize this condition. It's done. Now we will resuspend this pellet. Now this will look like this. This is the pellet. It is already resuspended in the buffer. Now what we will do, we put this what we generally do, we decant this in a beaker, 50 ml beaker. We decant this and we put this beaker inside the ice. So this is ice, and we put this beaker like this, so that this resuspended pellet is inside the ice. It will be like a jar of ice, and we put this small beaker inside that ice, so that the suspended pellet is inside the ice. Okay. Now what we will do, we will sonicate it. Now what is sonication? There is a machine called sonicator. Now what we will do, now sonication has a probe. It will be like this, and here is your ice, and here is your beaker, and we put this. So there is a screw. We can rotate this screw, and we can put this tip inside your beaker. So let's say now it is here inside the beaker. Now when we generally switch on it, what it will generate? It will generate ultrasonic sound. Okay, it is for sonicator, and because of the high energy of that ultrasonic sound, it will break the bacterial cell. Now what will happen? Your bacterial cell is here. You have induced that bacterial cell, so now proteins are there inside this cell. Now it will break, and all your protein will get out and will stay in the resuspended solution. Right? Now you have a beaker. Your resuspended pellet is here, and it is sonicated already. So you have protein inside this beaker only. Now we will put this solution inside some tubes called Ockridge tube. It is called Ockridge tube. Now it will look like this. These are the tubes, and we will centrifuge it at what RPM? At 40,000 RPM for 45 minutes. It's a very high RPM. So that now after the centrifugation, how it will look like? After centrifugation, this is the Ockridge tube. Okay. Now your cell debris will be in the pellet. All the cell debris, and your supernatant now is containing your protein of interest. Okay. Now next step is we will pour this supernatant in a tube, in a separate falcon, and this is the supernatant, and here we'll put the nickel NTA beads. Now it's your task. You put in the comment section what is this nickel NTA beads. Okay. If you search on the Google, you can see there is a structure of this nickel NTA beads and how it can actually, bind. It generally can bind to our protein. Now, which amino acid of the protein is important for all these things? You will check and let me know in the comment section. I'll also discuss, because this is the process I generally do in our lab. So these are very, old to me, but these are very new to you. So better you can search on the Google and check what are the properties of these beads and how it can interact our protein. That's all. Now we'll put these beads as well. Now if we zoom in that, now this is your beads and this is your protein. It will be look like this. Okay. So we generally keep it for 1 hour at 4 degrees Celsius, and we put this in a rotating movement. The tube will rotate continuously so that the beads will get properly spread out through the tube, and it can the protein can bind with the beads. Now after 1 hour, what we do generally, we have something called column. It looks like this. We pour this thing inside this tube. Now what we generally do, after pouring this, we collect this flow through, because there is a filter here. It will pass through this filter, but the beads will be there only. The beads will be here, but all the solution will be here. Now you can imagine that these beads are binding, like these are beads are already binds your protein, right? So these beads are there, and the protein which can bind with that bead are also there. Now your protein of interest is there inside this column. Now for that, your protein should have one thing. Now this is a protein. It should have an histidine tag. Now what is histidine tag? In this protein, this is the protein N and C terminal. In this protein, in the N or C terminal, you have 6 histidine one by one. Like histidine, like this. 6 histidine will be there, sometimes 10, and then there will be your protein. It should be there at the N or C terminal, and that side will bind to these beads, nickel NTA beads. So your beads are here, your proteins are also here, right? Now, but we need our protein in the solution for our study. So what we will do, now we will make a elution buffer. Okay, this is called lysis buffer. Now called elution buffer. Okay. Now what is elution buffer? Nothing but it is the lysis buffer plus imidazole. Now imidazole ring you have read, right? In which amino acid you have this imidazole ring? Let me know in the comment section. Now we have imidazole. Now we have different concentration of imidazole. So we will make a gradient of imidazole. Let's say 10 millimolar, 20 millimolar, 30 millimolar, 50 millimolar, up to 500 millimolar. We generally make 7 to 8 elution buffer, and each are 5 ml. Okay. Okay. Then After this elution, we load this fraction on the SDS gel. Let's say this is the SDS gel. This is the stacking. This is the resolving. I already uploaded a video for that SDS page. You can go and check that. And I also uploaded the practical view of this also. Now you have the SDS gel. Okay. Now, when you load these fractions, so what we generally load? We generally load pellet. We then flow through. Then we give a wash. Wash is nothing but 50 ml of these lysis vapor. We just pass through the column once. And then if we, this 10 millimolar, 20 millimolar, 30 millimolar, this elution fraction if we load, we can see in 10 millimolar there is a little band, there is a small band, then 220, there is a more prominent, then in case of 30, there is a more prominent, because when you start increasing the imidazole concentration, your protein concentration will be more in that elution fraction. And later, it sometimes, like it will first increase, then if you increase the concentration of the imidazole, because your protein already eluted here, right? Then it will start decreasing. Then in, let's say, in 500 millimolar, you have nothing, only a single band like this, or nothing at all. We can see kind of these bands. And sometimes you may get some kind of contamination and all these things. Based on that, you have to choose the purest fraction of your protein. Let's say this fraction I got only my protein, nothing else. No contamination is there. Now this fraction contain 30 millimolar of imidazole. But this imidazole can hinder your biochemical reaction. Now what we will do? We have to remove this imidazole. So next step is this removal of imidazole, and imidazole is a salt, right? So it's called desalting. Now how we generally do it? We do it generally to the column. Desalting means removal of imidazole. Now we take this 5 ml, that fraction, that is a 30 millimolar imidazole fraction, and we pass through a column. Now there are beads. This is size exclusion chromatography, the same thing. So salt are very small, right? The salt particles are very small, but your protein particles are bigger in size. So when you pass through this column, your protein will first elute, then later the salt particles. So you can collect this fraction and your imidazole will be removed from your protein sample. Now you can concentrate it and use for any biochemical assay. From structural biology to any biochemical assay, you can use this fraction of protein. So this is the broad overview of the protein purification process. Step by step I just discussed that cloning, then you transform the clone to the bacterial cell, then you optimize the expression conditions, then you purify your protein. Now in the next series of videos, what I will do, I will make separate video on these topics, and I will put a practical video as well with this theoretical part as well. Stay tuned. If you like the video, please share, like and subscribe my channel. Thank you so much.